We're getting into questions about transfer of title, how we transfer title on property. And clearly, if we've written a contract that something in the property is transferring when the property transfers. So you write a contract, for example, you're selling a house and the light bulbs are included. Then clearly they're included. But the Mishnah is really interested in the question of what happens the when the contract doesn't specify whether these are included. And it's going to bring, for example, the picture, the example of a millstone. I've got a millstone on the source sheet here, which I think has been reconstructed. You can see it's got two parts. There's a giant solid block on the bottom, and you put your grain or your olives in there. And then there's a moving stone at the top. And the moving stone is going to move around the stone at the bottom so that the corn or the olives or whatever are going to be crushed. But of course, the fixed millstone is fixed. You can't get rid of it. The moving one could be taken around. And let's just keep that in mind. And let's have a look now at the Mishnah. Hamocher, we're in the fourth chapter at the third Mishnah of Bava Batra. Hamocher et habayit, machar et hadelet, aval lo et hamafteach. Someone sells a house. The door is included, assuming the contract doesn't specify. The door is included, but not the key. The key is a part of movable property. We can carry it around. The door is fixed to the house. So the door is included, not the key. Machar et hamachteshet kvua, aval lo et hamitaltelet. He's sold the permanent mortar, but not the movable one. In other words, the fixed bit at the bottom that we saw on the picture, not the movable bit at the top. Machar et itztrovil, he sold the fixed millstone. Itztrovil is another word, Greek word for a fixed millstone. Aval lo et kalat, not the collector. The kalat is something that collects the grain. It's some kind of basket that collects the grain once it's been ground. Machar tanur, machar kiraim, if he sold a stove or if he sold an oven, bisman she'amar lo, hu vechol ma she'betocho. If he said, it and all that is in it, i.e., he's referring to his house. He's saying, I'm selling you the house, it and all that is in it. In this case, he's also sold the oven and the stove, but the presumption is that otherwise he has not sold them. They're not included. An oven is movable, and a stove is certainly movable. We've seen from the story of the oven of Achanai that actually you could take a stone down and you can move it. You can take an oven down and you can move it. So if he specifies that they're included. Harei chulam v'churim. That's a little leitmotif in these Mishnayot. Otherwise, they're not included. And this pattern of the Mishnah begins with hamocher, someone who sells. And at some point in the Mishnah, it has the words harei chulam v'churim. They are all sold. So these two leitmotifs carry now through a string of Mishnayot. And we don't have time to go into all of them. When we get onto the next class, we'll have a look, for example, at the architecture of an olive press. But we are going to let's look at the courtyard. Someone sells a courtyard. We've already said that houses in the time of the Mishnah are arranged around courtyards. And we know that the rental of a courtyard for a year was about 200 zuz, which is more or less the minimum price of the minimum price on a ketubah, the minimum payout when a woman is divorced or widowed. So we get a sense of the courtyard as something in itself. And the first opinion in the Mishnah is המוכר את החצר מכר בתים בורות שיחים ומערות. That if a person sells a courtyard, he's actually sold everything around it that's fixed, its houses, its cisterns, its trenches, and its caves. The only thing that he hasn't sold is the movable property. Avalo et ha-mitaltalim. He hasn't sold any movable property in it, but he sold everything fixed in that courtyard. And along the same lines, Bizman Shamarlo, hu vechol ma shebatocha. It and all that is in it. If he specifies in the contract, he sold everything in a courtyard. Harei chulam churim. They're all sold. Ben kach uven kach. Either way, however, ben kach uven kach. Lo macharet amar chetz. He hasn't sold the bathhouse. Velo et beit habad shebetocha. He hasn't sold the bathhouse and the olive press that are within it. Somehow these two institutions, the bathhouse and the olive press, seem to have wider significance than just the courtyard. It's not that they're movable. We'll see when we look at someone who sells an olive press. It's very much not movable, but they're not included in the sale. And Rabbi Eliezer is going to even make a more restrictive view. Rabbi Eliezer omer hamocher et hechatzer lo machar ela avira shel chatzer. If a person sold a courtyard, he's only sold the air of the courtyard, i.e. only the space of the courtyard itself, and not its houses and cisterns and trenches and caves. And of course, we know that there's some peculiar relationship. There's some close relationship between Rabbi Eliezer and the cistern. Rabbi Eliezer is described as a cistern. And maybe whether this is related or not to his comment, I don't know. But the halacha does not follow Rabbi Eliezer. If we sell a courtyard, we've actually sold all the buildings around the courtyard at the same time, unless the contract specifies otherwise.